The clock has ticked past the 30-day deadline for the Trump administration's review of the AUKUS Pact, and yet, there is no verdict. No formal word, no decision, just a void, and that void is beginning to speak louder than silence. Patrick Conroy, Australia's acting Defence Minister, didn't flinch when asked. He stood firm. He looked into the cameras and declared optimism. He spoke of senior-level engagement. He said Australia was hopeful. But beneath the carefully measured confidence, there was something else: urgency. The AUKUS alliance, once announced with bravado and strategic clarity, now hangs in a moment of uncertainty. America, or at least its new administration, has yet to deliver its verdict. AUKUS is more than just submarines. It's a cornerstone of Australia's strategic identity in the Indo-Pacific. It's a statement that Australia is ready to align itself with fellow democracies in the face of growing authoritarian assertiveness. And yet, it now awaits reaffirmation from an administration that seems to be re-examining every file on its desk. Elbridge Colby, the man overseeing the Pentagon-led review, is no stranger to hardline realism. He's spoken of priorities, of burden sharing, of reallocating focus. And in his public remarks, AUKUS has not always been shielded from critique. That makes this delay feel heavier. Loaded. Anthony Albanese is in China as this delay becomes official. The symbolism is sharp. While the Prime Minister attempts to manage a difficult yet necessary relationship with Beijing, Washington pauses on a defense pact meant to check China's rise. In Canberra, they are reading between the lines. And the message is clear: the Trump administration may be about to ask more. Much more. Because even as Conroy exudes faith in the outcome, the government is preparing for pressure. Not just diplomatic pressure, but financial, budgetary, strategic. It happened before, in Europe. Trump's first term was marked by unrelenting calls for NATO members to pay more, to pull their weight. The same tune is likely to be played now, with Australia expected to match rhetoric with dollars. And the dollars are daunting. The ABC has revealed new figures, unpublished, until now, that spell out what it would mean if Australia bows to pressure and agrees to boost defence spending to 3% of GDP. It's not just a policy shift. It's a financial earthquake. To meet that goal by 2035, the Parliamentary Budget Office estimated that Australia would need to pour an additional $20.6 billion into defence in just the first 5 years. Over a decade, that number explodes to $156.4 billion. These aren't rounding errors. These are structural shifts. And they raise real questions, not just about money, but about national priorities. What will be sacrificed to pay this price? Health, education, infrastructure. Or will Australia try to do it all and risk overextension? Defence spending isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a national identity statement. And with AUKUS hanging in the balance, that identity is being tested. The Albanese government has embraced AUKUS from the start. It has signalled continuity. It has walked the diplomatic tightrope between engagement with China and strategic alignment with the US and UK. But now it faces a fork in the road. Because if the Trump administration's review comes back with conditions, more money, more military commitments, more integration, Australia must decide whether to comply, negotiate, or resist. It won't be an easy call. Domestically, increasing defence spending to 3% of GDP is politically explosive. It would dwarf most other budget lines. It would require sacrifices, reallocations, or even tax reforms. Internationally, it would reaffirm Australia's role as a central US ally, a serious player in the Pacific. But it might also draw sharper lines with China, at a time when the government is trying to ease tensions. In the meantime, the review's delay creates a vacuum. And vacuums in geopolitics invite speculation, concern, miscalculation. Other players in the region, Beijing especially, are watching. They're studying the silence. They're reading the posture. And they're adjusting. For Australia, the question is simple but profound: what is the cost of trust in an alliance? Is AUKUS worth $156 billion? Is strategic clarity worth budget upheaval? Is deterrence worth domestic discomfort? Patrick Conroy says yes, implicitly. His optimism is a signal that the government is prepared to back the alliance. But hope isn't a strategy. And in the world of defence and diplomacy, clarity matters. So as the review lingers incomplete, Australia waits. It waits for America's answer. It waits for confirmation that the deal it signed in trust will be honoured in full. It waits to see what price will be attached to the phrase, strategic partner. And in that waiting, a nation must decide what it's truly willing to invest, not just in submarines, not just in defense hardware, but in the very idea of a rules-based order, backed by shared sacrifice. The Trump administration may yet endorse AUKUS. It may reaffirm the pact without conditions. Or it may sharpen its expectations. But whatever the outcome, this moment has already reshaped the debate. Because in defense, as in politics, silence often speaks the loudest.